Loss comes in many forms, and usually in unexpected ways. It can be devastating, leaving you facing an uphill struggle to go on with life without someone you thought would always be there. But life does go on, and even in the deepest despair, we can find hope. Welcome to Grief Relief with your hosts, Drs. Gloria and Heidi Horsley, brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation, helping people find hope after loss. And now here's Dr. Gloria and Dr. Heidi.
Welcome to Grief Relief. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my co-host and daughter,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we've got a really important show today, and one that I like because we're going to talk about the Enneagram, which is a personality system that I've known about for years, and it's impacted our family a lot because after the loss of my son Scott, your brother, and other family members, we've known our personality types and kind of how we were going to interact together, haven't we?
Absolutely. It was really important because we all have different personality types, and we're going to talk more about that, and I happen to be the peace seeker, so I like to keep the peace. I don't like a lot of conflict, and I like to mediate.
And I'm the giver on the Enneagram. I think, is that what we're calling me on this one? The helper.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of different names on the Enneagram, but they're numbers that connect up with the names. And we'll be talking a little bit about that today because we have got really one of the world's leading experts on the Enneagram here with us today. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to have her on the show. Her name's Elizabeth Wagele, and this is her book, The Enneagram of Death. And some of you might have seen her other books. She's written many books, and one of them that I'm real familiar with is The Enneagram Made Easy, and that's one that you might try to find your personality type after you hear from Elizabeth today. But also on the show, we're going to have Jan Conlon, and Jan's going to talk about the loss of her mother and how, as a grief counselor, she used the Enneagram to help her through the loss of her mom. And then we're going to have Katie Morford, and she's going to talk to us about cooking and cooking good things and healthy things while you're grieving. And she's written a beautiful book called The Best Lunchbox Ever. So we'll be talking to Katie after this. So it's going to be a good show, huh, Heidi?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Well, let's start with our first guest,
Hi,
Elizabeth.
Hello.
Welcome to the show today. We're so excited to have you on. And you know, what we wanted to do was to have you start by showing a chart. We're going to put a chart up of the Enneagram and have you kind of go over it and give people an idea of the basic numbers, and then we'll get to a little bit more about how people use it in grieving and why you think it's important. So if we could get that chart up, there it is. Can you see that from there?
Well, I know
you know it.
I know the chart.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So first we have the perfectionist, the number one. The perfectionist wants to do things right, wants to know how to do things, what is right, and so they can do them right. Moving right along, we have the helper, number two, and this is your type.
Right.
And the helper is real interested in other people, and what can I do for other people, knows people better than they know themselves sometimes. Then we have the three, which is the achiever. And the achiever wants success, and they're very energetic and busy, and they might be the school body president and many other things at the same time. The four is the romantic, very compassionate type, very into feelings and expressing the feelings. So a lot of artists are four romantics. Then we have my type, the observer, wants to know everything. I want to know everything. Reads a lot and kind of objective type.
Well, and I'm thinking maybe that would make a good author.
Yeah, a lot of authors are
You've had
observers.
these incredible books that have sold a lot, and it makes sense given your personality type.
Right. It does, yeah. And I like to focus in on something, concentrate on something in depth. Which some types don't like to do. I'll get there in a minute. Then the number 6 is the questionnaire, and the questionnaire wants to be safe. And they're safe either by being kind of meek and, take care of me, or by being real strong and I'll get there before the enemy gets to me. So they're kind of a complicated type. The 7 is the type that likes to have fun, go to parties, do a lot of different things, keep things kind of light on the surface. And the 8 is called the asserter. Did I say the 7 was an adventurer?
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
but
the
I know they are.
adventure, we call it. And the 8 is called the asserter, and they're the toughest of all the types. And they're very confident, know what they want, and make decisions easily. So they end up being bosses a lot.
And I would think some of them are leaders.
Leaders,
I'm
definitely.
thinking, I live in New York City, and a lot of our leaders, I think, are 8s.
Yeah, they're kind of natural-born leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's the 9, the peace seeker, and peace seekers don't like conflict. Yeah, and they have kind of a spiritual feeling about them of every man, liking everyone, like wanting to find out about the world.
Yeah, we were saying that, well, thank you for showing the chart, and we were saying that Nelson Mandela may have been a 9 because he certainly was a peace seeker and able to see other side. Now tell me, how does the personality, you've written this wonderful book on the Enneagram of Death, and I wondered, how does the personality affect the dealing with a loss?
Yeah, well, in many, many different ways, and it gets complicated when you're talking about loss. But some of the types would want to kind of run away, maybe run away in different ways, possibly get busy after a loss so they don't feel it. And some might worry over everything so they don't feel it. Some people might veg out, become couch potatoes. And those are related a little bit to type.
So there are 3 quadrants, and you were talking about earlier that we represent all 3.
Yeah,
to simplify it a little bit,
Okay.
I'm in the heart-based quadrant,
yeah, well,
right?
starting up at the head, so it kind of looks, easy. The head center, or the fear center, too, they're the same. That's my type. And observers, questioners, and adventurers are in that center. And then your center, the heart type, are the 2s, 3s, and 4s, which are the helpers, the achievers, and the romantics. And they deal with feelings more. Then there's the gut type, which is a 9, the peace seeker, and also the perfectionist, and also the boss.
Now, how do you, let's see, for me, dealing with a loss, thinking of myself as being the helper, I think when I have a loss, I tend to probably overgive and try to think about other people and maybe neglect my own feelings a little bit. What do you do, Heidi?
I'm trying to think. I definitely seek out friends and merge with other people. What would you say, Elizabeth, for a 9? Peace seeker?
We have an example in the book. These are stories, about 50 stories that people have written about their experiences with death. And some of them talk a lot. They'll tell stories, or that's one way of kind of avoiding going in through the feelings. And the most successful coping with loss maybe they've done these coping mechanisms for a while, but eventually they go into the loss and through it and out the other end. And those are the inspiring stories.
Now, how would a 5 deal with it?
The beautiful story in here, she just analyzes it. She analyzes how do I feel, and she goes to lots of different groups to find out, what is my psyche doing here, and yeah, she was successful at dealing with the loss of her child and grandchild at the same time.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's a lot. Well, now here I am, and I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, how would I go about figuring out what type I am, and is it hard, and what would you suggest?
Well, I suggest that you do it yourself. And sometimes people will come up to you and they say, well, I know you're a this or a that.
Right.
And that's not such a good thing, because if it's really a privilege to be able to search your own personality out and then match it to what you've read or heard about the Enneagram.
Now, I know in your book that has sold many, many copies, The Enneagram Made Easy, and the book that I actually was introduced first with the Enneagram, and what I like about it, to let people know, is that it's amusing. And it's funny, and there are little things where you can check, you know, little questionnaires and stuff. So you might go discover yourself through humor and your own drawing, so which are really quite wonderful.
Yeah.
And from the Enneagram Made Easy, I know you did something called the dinner party, where you did all the personality types that ran in a circle and said this is how they would react at a dinner party. And it's so delightful. And so we wanted to play a little clip of the dinner party right now. And I want to say to everybody, this is a great book, The Enneagram of Death, with good stories. And it was a wonderful book for you to take a look at. And you might want to go to the Enneagram Made Easy first, and then pick up the Enneagram of Death. And other books that you've written, so they can find you on the website, and we'll talk to you about where to find. Well, where do we find you on the website?
It's Wagele.com, Wagele.
Great, and we're going to be doing some more with Jan Conlon, talking to her about the Enneagram, and let's see the rollout of the dinner party.
I'm Elizabeth Wagele, and I'm going to tell you about the guests in my cartoon, The Dinner Party. First Enneagram type, the perfectionist, wants everybody to eat right and notices not enough food groups represented here. All perfectionists are concerned with what's right and with fairness. The second Enneagram type, the helper, likes to give. This hostess says, "It's so great to feel needed." The third Enneagram type, the achiever, a workaholic, says, "I need to eat and run. I'm swamped." The romantic likes everything to be aesthetically pleasing, so cheap caviar might be shocking. Franny Forrest friends enjoy her ability to notice and create beautiful things. The fifth type, the observer, likes to be quiet sometimes and is thinking, "It's a talkative group. Good, that gets me off the hook." The sixth type, the questionnaire, is skeptical about why the achiever says she has to run. "She's leaving early. Doesn't she like us?" Adventurers like to keep their options open and like to have contingency plans. This one is thinking, first I'll eat, then take some pictures, then go to my class, then... This outspoken and direct asserter isn't fooling around when he says, "Pass it down, pass it all down here." This ninth type, the peace seeker, from the Enneagram Made Easy, is happy. "I feel so close to everybody." This peace seeker is particularly averse to conflict.
Wow, Heidi, that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm laughing because at the end when they said the 9 says, "I feel so close to everybody." That would definitely be me at a party.
Congratulations, Elizabeth. That's a great thing. And
it is.
Yeah, wonderful. And Jan, welcome to our show.
Welcome, Jan.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you on. Now, I know you're friends with Elizabeth and know Elizabeth and have studied the Enneagram. And we were talking earlier about how you used it with your family and how important it's been, and how with the loss of your mom 2 years ago that you have used the Enneagram. Can you talk about what type you are? And
Yes, I am a perfectionist, and my mom was a helper, your type, the type 2. And how I use it is, there's something that's the same for all of us, in that when we have, say, the loss of my mom, she died 2 years ago, I will be carrying the loss that I have of her, missing what we might have done, but also like in this backpack that it feels like I'm carrying all my wishes and hopes that I had in relationship maybe I didn't have with her, any anger or resentment I might be carrying, shame, guilt, anything else that's associated with it that is still all a part of the grief. And the other part that I'm carrying is other losses and griefs that this reminds me of, that this brings up, maybe a loss of a dog years ago or a friend who abandoned me. And so I end up carrying what feels like a gigantic pack of grief and loss, and I'm associating it with my mom, and when I think about trying to heal it, it just feels overwhelming.
And so, Elizabeth, what do you hear from her when you hear about the perfectionist doing that?
Yeah, they want to think about everything and take everything into account. And perfectionists tend to worry a lot, because how am I going to get everything right if I don't worry about things? And I do also think what she said is universal, that it applies to every type to some degree.
And Jan, what have you found that's been healing for you as a one in getting your mom through your mom's loss?
What really seemed to help me was to take this backpack that I had and pull out parts of it so that I could deal with it a little by little, so it wouldn't be so overwhelming. And so I found the Enneagram being a great tool to pull out some parts to lessen that load. And what I worked with was my type as the perfectionist and my mom's type as a helper. And I saw what is it that I'm needing, what was it that she was needing through our lives. I was needing to look good or to feel like I was a good person and to make sure I wasn't making mistakes. And for her, she wanted to feel loved and she wanted to feel like she was needed. And so as a little girl growing up, I tried really hard to be the good daughter. And I saw that she was needing love, and so I would do everything that I could to try to give to her the love that she was needing. And sometimes I could do it and sometimes I could not. And it was very painful for me to feel like I couldn't fill those spots, even though they weren't my job as a child. I know a lot of us girls growing up felt like we needed to be good girls. And so I would try and try and try. And so when I was healing this, I had to heal this little girl in here who felt like she was never a good enough daughter. And I also had to work with some resentment and anger that, how come you couldn't take care of that so you could let me know that I was good enough just the way I was? And all these feelings were coming up, shame, resentment. And so what I did was I pulled each one of those apart and used those, knowing my type and her type, to find a place to meet and connect, knowing with more compassion what we each needed and how we were individual in what we needed.
Wow, Heidi, that's amazing. I never thought about feeling it. You know, you talk about in the therapy world, we talk about refilling the roles and that kind of thing. We talk about that all the time, but really with the Enneagram, you'll know what those roles are that you're looking for to fill. So that's a wonderful thing. So I would highly suggest that people get the book on the Enneagram of Death and read some of those stories and understand what it is that we're missing. That's a really nice
And Jan has 2 stories in that book.
Yeah,
which are
wonderful. And Jan has 2 stories, so get the book. And thank you, too, for being on the show. It's been absolutely wonderful having you on today and for the work you're doing. I hope everybody out there will figure out what their personality type is. And it can be fun as well as informative and educational.
And
well,
healing.
Heidi, let's go see Katie Morford's cooking. Great. Let's go. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie. Come on over to the
Wow, it looks
kitchen.
great.
So wonderful. I love your cookbook. It's absolutely
you.
amazing, and congratulations. It's wonderful. And how great of you to come today and talk about helping people get some healthy meals after grief and loss.
Well, it's really important to nourish yourself and for caregivers to help nourish their loved ones when they're grieving. And so we're going to do 3 really simple recipes that are delicious and nourishing and super convenient. So let's start with this. This is it's called Curried Quinoa salad. And what I love about this is, although I'm using quinoa,
my granddaughter loves quinoa, Eliza.
It's super nourishing. It's really high in protein.
Yeah.
But you could use any grain. You could use couscous or brown rice or whatever you happen to have on hand. And I'm going to add to this some, this is just a peeled tangerine. I already have some in there. So you're going to cut open a tangerine and then just pull the little sections apart and add it to your grains.
Yummy.
That looks good.
This is very seasonal too. And then we've got some toasted almonds. Those are going to go in.
Oh.
And some dried cranberries. And then I'm just going to season it with half a teaspoon of curry powder. You can use any kind of curry powder. I've got some white wine vinegar and olive oil.
Oh, that sounds great.
Just for some moisture, and then just a pinch of salt. And that's it.
Great.
You know, it couldn't be easier. You just toss it together. And it's really pretty, really colorful. You could, certainly play with the ingredients. And then I'm going to let you guys taste it.
Oh, good.
I was hoping you'd say that.
And what's nice about this is that it keeps really well. So you could make it, say, for lunch one day and have it for dinner the next day. It would certainly, serve for a couple of meals. And it's also a nice thing to bring to somebody. You could stick it in a Tupperware and be good to go.
Oh, yeah.
Want to try?
Yes.
I'll give you.
That looks amazing.
And while you nibble on that, I'm going to move on to the next.
Okay.
So I really like to make homemade granola bars.
I love granola bars.
Yes, there's lots of options store-bought, but there's just nothing like homemade. And again, this is something that you could make yourself or maybe someone could bring for you. And it's a nice option to having something like a cookie. And basically all it is oats, some crispy brown rice cereal, and flax meal, mixed with peanut butter and brown rice syrup and some maple syrup.
Wow.
And you could use almond butter or sunflower butter. You really could use any nut or seed butter.
I love this because you can stick it in your pocket and you can stick it in your purse to go.
Yeah. Sometimes convenience is everything. Just something, you know,
especially
that you can
when
grab
you're
and
grieving.
go. Yeah.
Because I think when you're grieving, we tend to go towards comfort food.
Yeah.
Grab a Snickers bar and grab, you know, real high calorie things.
I think that's really true. And having something on hand means you're probably not going to reach for that. And the thing is, when you're in that time of stress, you really need to nourish yourself all the more. So basically, you press the dough into a pan, you bake it, and it comes out into this beautiful brown.
That's beautiful. That's great.
And then I just cut it into bars. And what I love about this is that, as you said, it's really portable. And what I often will do is I'll make a double batch. I'll cut them all up, and then I'll take a little piece of parchment and wrap them like a little, like this.
I love that.
Oh, how sweet. Yeah.
And then stick them in the freezer. You know, and just by the
you
time,
got them right there. Like you said, you can just
great.
throw it in your purse on the way out the door.
And Katie was saying something before the show. She said, you know, when we're grieving, we either eat a lot of comfort food or we don't eat. And sometimes all of a sudden you'll feel faint and sick, and just to have this.
Yeah, this is, you know, really nutrient dense. You've got the nut butter and the oats and all that good stuff.
Oh,
You wanna
fabulous.
try that?
Oh, yeah.
You guys can share.
Yes, I do.
So, and then the last thing I wanted to show you is how to turn a really humble pot of beans into meals. There's really nothing more economical, easy to make, and really healthy. And so these are some pinto beans that I made in my slow cooker. You just put a pound in your slow cooker, add 7 cups of water, and let it go.
Wow.
And then you can turn that into snacks, you know, add a fried egg and it's breakfast. Or what I like to do is make really simple tostadas. So this is lunch for me, probably twice a week. So normally I would take a corn tortilla and crisp it in a pan. And then to that, you know, I might usually actually start with some vegetables. So if you have leftover sweet potato or broccoli, or I'm using some fresh spinach, you can start with a little base of that. And then I'm going to
love the protein.
Yeah, layer on the beans, and you can use any kind of beans. I'm using pinto, but you can use black beans, or and then a little bit of mixture of cheese, and then finish it off with some nice salsa. And then you have this little, you know, beautiful little lunch or dinner that took no time to make. And again, the thing with the beans is you can freeze them. So make a big pot and then put them in freezer containers and throw them in, and then grab and go. So again, all really easy
I love
to
this.
do.
And I've got to just say, this is fabulous.
Yeah.
It's as good as a candy bar, okay? Without the guilt.
Thank you.
And also, what I'm thinking about, Katie, is that you could make that up for a friend who'd lost a family member. I mean, that would be such an unusual thing to bring over, and wrapped up in those little things.
And it lasts for a long time, because you think of casseroles. I mean,
it will last a long
don't
time.
last that long.
And I think, you know, people want to bake. You know, there's something really loving about baking, but bringing someone something nourishing like a granola bar as opposed to a cake or cookies makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I love that you don't have to eat it right away, because I know when we've had losses that people bring a lot of casseroles and a lot of things, and they get pretty stale after a while. But something like this you could pull out of your freezer anytime. Yeah, and I love those. Now, talk a little bit about some of the things in your cookbook.
So this is a lunchbox book. It's really, I sort of designed it mostly for kids, but I'm finding that adults are really drawn to it as well. And what's really nice about it is that all the recipes are really simple, and they're all really nourishing. And there's a lot of recipes in there that really make use of leftovers. So if you roast a chicken, ways you can turn that into soup or salads or things like that.
And I love that you actually had little lunchbox things for the kids that are really interesting.
Yeah,
I like that too.
There's, I mean, an explosion of that whole category, the whole lunch packing category.
Now, how can people get a hold of your book and where's your website? And you're going to have some of these recipes on your website and in your book.
Yeah. All the recipes are either in the book or on my site. My website's called momskitchenhandbook.com.
I like that.
And there's links for information about the book, and you can certainly find it in local bookstores, on Amazon, and that sort of thing.
Well, thank you so much for being on the
Thank you
show
for
today
having me.
and
It's
for
been
the good
wonderful.
things.
Katie, I will
Thank
definitely
you.
be getting this with my kids.
Oh, good.
And thanks for watching our show today.
Thank you.
This has been the Grief Relief Show, hosted by mother-daughter team Doctors Gloria and Heidi Horsley. This show has been brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation, helping people find hope after loss. Be sure to visit opentohope.com, where you can listen to radio programs, watch Open to Hope TV, read articles, and view books. You can also join Dr. Gloria and Dr. Heidi on Twitter and Facebook and put your events on their international calendar. Thanks for watching, and remember, others have been there and made it, and you can too.